it's kind of a moot point now that I'm recording this, but the Wile E. Coyote movie on HBO is done, has been tested, and was going to come out, and then Time Warner, HBO, whatever, I don't even know what they're called, Warner Media, deleted it basically for the insurance write-off, which is a precedent that they set like a year ago when they did that to a bunch of HBO movies, famously Batgirl, but a bunch of other stuff. Moonshot, which is a terrible movie that I enjoyed for its terribleness, doesn't exist in any form anymore unless it's hidden on some hard drive that they're not allowed to release because of insurance reasons. But there's this weird precedent that studios now have access to because of HBO/Warner. I wouldn't really blame HBO OG, but that if they don't want to release the movie, they can just take the insurance buyout, which is like, I don't even know how I would describe that in some other medium. I was like, how would you do that with cars? You make a car, and then you decide that car doesn't need to be sold and on the road, and so you take the insurance, but like that doesn't make sense. But the difference is a car, you can break the materials down and recycle most of them. So in theory, you could recycle the metals and stuff, where you can't really do that with a digital film, for instance. But it's a weird precedent. It's very gross. Ultimately, it's a moot point because they hid the Wile E. Coyote movie for the insurance payout, and then people complained, and now they're going to release it anyway. So I guess yay, but excuse me. It's a weird precedent. It's gross. It's, as the sensitive artist, the idea that something gets just destroyed because it makes you money by destroying it is crazy. But I'm also not a money person, so hey, that's as far as I'm willing to go down that rabbit hole. But it did get me thinking. In my undergrad and then later in film school and grad school, we were film school. A lot of it is they show you old movies. But the thing is, most old movies are on celluloid. They're reels of film. And why that's crazy is because celluloid breaks down over time. Film reels are really not meant to last 100 years. We're in a different time now, digitally, which is both better and worse, because in theory, if you put your film up digitally on a server somewhere, it could exist there as long as the server existed. But also, if you're using Amazon Web Services, which almost everybody in the world is, or if you have it at HBO's servers, somebody could just click delete and that could be the end of it, which I'm not accusing HBO of doing. I'm just saying that that's like a very real possibility, which is terrifying. There's the whole, if you read the article about the director that did Batgirl, she has a copy of Batgirl because she feared this might happen. Until she doesn't, they might take it away. They might subpoena her and try to sue her to get it back. I don't know. I'm speculating. Film reels used to be on reels, celluloid. It breaks down over time. And so in film school and in my undergrad, especially when they were showing us really old stuff, the reels were damaged and in bad shape and, not good quality. And sometimes you would have, if it was a feature film, you'd have the first reel, and then the second reel would be different color or worse or something. And then the third reel, because they lost or they broke the second reel, so they had to get a different second reel of the same movie. It was a thing. It's a whole thing. But they had it. And so they couldn't necessarily screen the movie reels for profit the way it would have gone to theaters 50 or 100 years ago. Well, not 100 years ago, 50-ish years ago, I guess. But because it's got historical value and it's got educational value, the educational value kind of makes it Creative Commons ish or public domain or whatever, but also things past a certain age for copyright reasons fall into public domain anyway. There's a whole thing about Mickey Mouse probably never going into public domain because Disney is fighting it, because it should have already, Mickey Mouse himself should have already gone into public domain a few times now, but that hasn't happened. And so there might be a whole public domain conversation. But my issue is, up until a certain point, all films were on celluloid, which does break down over time. But basically, if you had the reel, you could watch it. That was what it was. You couldn't necessarily watch for profit, but you had the physical media, so you could watch it, you could show it, that whole thing. That's what film school is. It's like playing records. Same thing with records, kind of. But now we're in a digital world, so somebody could just flip a switch and it's gone, and then it never exists again. In my fantasy world of compromise, because my fantasy world is all films are for all people, but obviously we're never going to get to that utopia. So in my compromise fantasy world, if a HBO type place wants to go ahead and flush the toilet on a finished movie and just not release it and take the insurance buyout, I feel like then that movie should just fall into or be accepted into public domain or Creative Commons, where anybody can watch it for no cost because it exists. The issue is because it's not a physical media, it's just data on a server somewhere. For that reason and for political reasons, I don't think that's going to be the case. But I do think there should be some sort of consequence, because it really does seem like, especially this weird, I don't even know what I would call it, a loophole or what, but this idea that a whole movie gets made and then they decide not to release it in good faith or bad and just take an insurance buyout for it. That means there could be a whole cottage industry of just bad faith making movies that are designed to not be released, and then it's exploitative in insurance. I'm sure there's insurance reasons for that not to be the case, but I could also see it happening. I don't know. Like, share, subscribe. Do you guys feel the same way? What a mess. Catch you next time.